the original files look like. Let's go ahead and navigate back into my Annapolis folder and go all the way down to the stream folder. Again, I have a folder structure that looks like this because I'm using AVCHD. Yours might differ a bit, but the concept should be the same. So I'm going to go into my stream folder, and here you see, because we're using AVCHD, I've got .mts files. This would be the same for AVC Cam and even some other formats. If you happen to be using a different camera, say Canon 5D or even a flip camera or something like that, or maybe a Nikon camera, you might see .mov or .avi, and in many cases you'll see .mp4. None of it makes any difference other than that's where you need to point the next step. The next step is to go ahead and bring up HD Link for Windows or Remaster if you're a Mac user. Click on the Convert tab, the Select Folder button, and go ahead and point it back down to that stream folder and click OK. Here you should see your files listed. You want to make sure to go ahead and uncheck split scenes for HDV conversion only. I'm not sure why it defaults to that on, but it does. So I'm going to go ahead and click Start. I'm going to go ahead and select the right eye folder as well and click Start. So now I'll have my left eye converted and then my right eye converted. Let's go ahead and look in that folder and see what it did. As you can see, it gave me some new files, and because I'm on the PC, it ended in .avi. Of course, the Macs would end in .mov. And from here, I'm just going to go ahead, to keep myself organized, I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder called Left Cineform. And of course another folder called Right Cineform. And let's go ahead and move those AVI files. I'm going to press the Control key and move these AVI files over to the Left Cineform folder. Again, I've got my original files here and I've got my Cineform files here. This step is totally optional. It just helps me stay organized. And go ahead and do the same for the right folder. And I'm in my right folder here, and I'm just going to go ahead and select these files here and drag them down to the Right Cineform folder. And now I'm ready for the next step. For those of you using the new Panasonic AG3D-A1, you can actually do conversion and muxing in one single step in the latest Cineform First Light update. Currently running under Windows. What you do is you basically go to 3D Mux before you do anything, and let's go ahead and select our left eye file. So I'm going to go back out to my Panasonic AVC Cam left folder that I dragged and created, and I'm going to go to Stream, and I'm just going to come down at the bottom under File Type down here, and I'm going to tell it that I want to see Panasonic AVC HD files. And you'll notice that it automatically will list those MTS files, and I'll go ahead and just click the first one. And let's go ahead and do the same thing for the right eye. And you'll notice the 3000 came up. All you do now is just go ahead and set a destination. Create a new folder called 3D Output and save that. Save. And at this point, you just click Auto Mux. And as you'll see, it went ahead and added all of those files just like before, but the main difference being you don't have to use the HD Link application. You're doing everything you need to do, from converting the file from Cineform format and muxing it at the same time. Again, this is a great time saver when you know you're using a camera like the Panasonic 3D-A1, where I don't have to worry about frame sync. So that camera is already on the money by the way it's designed. So just a quick peek at some of the workflow changes that are happening in this fast-moving 3D editing workflow. The last step, and the most important step before we jump into Adobe Premiere CS5, is to open up the First Light application and mux the two files together, meaning we're going to tie the left eye and the right eye together in one file. Go ahead and open up First Light and point it at one of your files. Let's go ahead and start with the left eye. And then I'll go ahead and point it to the right eye. In the case of using standard AVC HD cameras, you can see one of the issues, and that is that these cameras always start naming their files 000 and then 0001 and so on. So again, what we want to go ahead and do is keep track of which file was right and which file was left. So I wanted to point this out before showing you another step that I do to prep the file. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these two files, open up Adobe Bridge, and I'm going to point it to that left folder, and I'll do the same for the right. I'm going to shift select these three files here, and I'm going to go under Tools, Batch Rename. And I'm just going to go ahead and name those Annapolis Left, and then I'll just underscore that. And then I'll give it a sequence number of, say, 2 digits. And click Rename. And you'll see that it went ahead and renamed these files for me. And let's go back out and do the same thing for the right folder. And now I've got my files organized, and from here you can just close Bridge. Let's go back into First Light and re-import those now with left names and right name. So here's Annapolis Right and Annapolis Left. Again, this is just what I do to keep myself organized. Now at this point you can start to see by clicking on each one of these files there's just a slight difference in the file. So just a little bit of a shift. So as you recall in the intro video, I held up that I can slate, or you can clap your hands or use some other visual cue, but we need a way to make sure that both cameras started at the same time, which we're pretty sure you were probably 1 or 2 frames off when you're doing sort of a manual start. Again, another advantage of the Panasonic 3D A1 camera is you're guaranteed that both SD cards are writing at the same time. But for those of you that are just using 2 independent cameras like some of the rigs I showed you, by using a clapper board or a slate or clapping your hands or again some other visual cue, it's really not that hard. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this to where I held up the slate. And click Set. So I've got left eye set, and do the same thing for the right eye. So just right when it clips down, and click the right eye, and then Set. And you'll see that the sync frame that we're telling it to use as a reference is 138 on the right, and if I click on the left, it's 137. So the cameras were just 1 frame off, but 1 frame off is enough to give you a softer image. So the next step is to go ahead and tie these 2 files together in one file. So I'm going to go ahead and shift select the left and the right files together, and then I'm going to go to 3D Mux and hit Add to Queue, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Start Queue. It's going to go ahead and process both of those movies into one movie, and again, here's where the active metadata starts to take place. It's actually going to keep track of the left eye and the right eye information, so we can change those at any time we need to. We just have the convenience of having those muxed into one file, again tied into one file. And just for disk purposes, so you guys know, it is making another copy of that file, and it is a bit larger than the original file. Obviously it's got 2 files put together, but it has the advantage of allowing us to do separate controls for right and left. And again, depending on the version of Neo that you have lots of different options. It's a fairly quick process depending on how long your video is, but Cineform has a pretty quick process to it. So we're going to go ahead and close this out, and let's go ahead and re-import that. By default, it puts it in the left folder, so again, to keep yourself organized, you might want to pull this out and put it in a 3D folder. But let's go ahead and import that